Good afternoon, everyone. What can only be described as dripping sunlight spotted over the southeast U.S. NOAA's all-time record high heat, December 2016. There's no weather stations where they're recording the heat. Piers Corbin says the mini ice age is staying, and the crop rot in the fields Northern Ireland, the worst in over 30 years. And while you're watching the video, please remember to subscribe to Adapt 2030 and click that bell so you can get the latest updates. Our favorite UK astrophysicist Piers Corbin says the mini ice age is staying. This is backed up by earlier research this year. Yale University team led by Dr. Wei Liu. They concluded that a decrease in solar activity is and was causing instability in the Atlantic Ocean's currents. You've been told all along it's because CO2 and all these other excuses, but here it is, the sun. Welcome to the Grand Solar Minimum. And then we have NOAA. This comes from December 2016. This is some of their newest research, trying to compile everything over the year to show you that over this last year to this year, it's warmed the most ever. Record heat, Southern Africa, Central Africa, blistering hot. But then the BBC has how missing weather data is a life and death issue because there's a shortage of weather data, putting many African nations in peril. And I fell out of my chair. There's only 1,100 active weather stations across the entire continent, 54 countries. And I thought, no, that's impossible. Truly, it has to be impossible. But then I went to TAMO, linked through United Nations and the GPCC, which is the Global Precipitation Climatology Center database. Any location in Africa, they have a climate information tool where you can take a look at some of the stations here. Notice so many of them down in Southern Africa, South Africa, Mozambique. But then I put them side by side to take a look. Where was the record heat from NOAA and where are these weather stations? You notice where it shows record heat? There are not any stations down in that part of Africa. So I'll let you draw your own conclusion with this. I dug a little deeper because I'm enthralled by Mozambique anyway. I traveled down to Lesotho and Zimbabwe, went into the Tete corridor in Mozambique back in the 90s. So we're looking at Mozambique. It's just west of Madagascar, that big island sticking off of Africa there. 800,000 square kilometers and 125 weather stations down there. So I thought, okay, there's only 1,100 stations in the entire continent, and Mozambique has 10% of these stations. South Africa has another 20% of the stations. So between these two countries, there's still 70% of the entire continent dividing up 800 plus stations. It's unbelievable. And I actually had to go to Magic Seaweed. If you surf, you know what this site is, and check out the wind and weather stations there through Madagascar and Mozambique. Even going to the National Meteorological Institute for Mozambique, almost all the entire site's down. It gives you the daily forecast, but going back through, looking for comments, products, events, looking for past data, it's blank. So if it's like this in Mozambique, where they have the most weather stations, imagine what it's like for the rest of the underfunded nations, because Tanzania, they get a lot of tourism money, and Mozambique as well, and South Africa is well funded. But when you look at the rest of Africa, their weather network stations are not being kept up to date, and it's just absolutely criminal for NOAA to put all of these record heat right where no stations exist. This should be an investigation in itself. Jumping over to Northern Ireland, been talking about the wet conditions across the planet as galactic cosmic rays cause more cloud cover. Wet weather and potatoes left rotting in the fields, one of the worst harvests in a generation. So wet, so terrible the conditions, the farmers are just letting them go in the fields. They're unharvestable, really. Now let's talk about dripping sunlight. This is an amazing collage of photos here. Missouri River area, and I'm just going to let the photos speak for themselves. It's definitely not a lens anomaly. It's not a UFO, so stop right there. And if you can find another photo that mimics this one, please send it to me. I'd love to see it because this is so extraordinary, so out of the ordinary, so unusual. that it has to be something with diffuse sunlight coming from our sun with different UV spectrum. Enjoy the picture. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video.